Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome Souheil Badran from Alipay, President of Alipay Americas. So, Souheil, I'd like to start with a question about Ant Financial. Recently, there was news about raising $14 billion and valued at $150 billion. So becoming the most highly valued private company, quite an accomplishment. Can you talk a little bit about what you think are some of the factors that have really led to that really fast trajectory? Because we saw yesterday from one of Anand's slides that in financial services, that's a rarity to see that kind of very fast trajectory.
I can start off with a little joke. I said it's China because when this conference was put together, the valuation was 60 billion, and today it's 150. That's how fast things grow. To be honest, it's gaining our consumers' trust, right? And Jack Ma says it in a great way, which is, in a sense, CES, consumer or customers, employees, shareholders, right? So when you do everything possible to gain your customers' trust, give them a seamless experience, a secure experience along the way, and we've been doing this now over 14 years, your employees are happy, your customers are happy, and that shows the trust from the shareholders and the investors who are putting money into the company to continue in our globalization effort. And so it wasn't an overnight success. It was years and years of listening to our customers, looking at different use cases on how we can cater to them and continue to build our ecosystem.
And what's Ant Financial planning to do with the money, with the $14 billion?
We're very focused on extending our capabilities in China and outside of China. So in China, offering different sets of services that are tied to what we're doing with Alipay today, whether it's around insurance and other services, continue to investing in our cloud. Outside of China, it's globalization. We see some very good opportunities. We're starting to execute on them today with Paytm in India, for example. We've taken our technology and worked with local partners, not under our brand, but to drive that infrastructure in developing markets where it's a little bit different than the US or Canada or Europe, and we see an opportunity to drive financial inclusion. So when you look at what we've been doing over the last few years, we have about 9 to 10 countries now where we've taken that model. And in parallel, the second part is catering to that Chinese tourist and consumer that's leaving China and looking for experiences outside of China. And how do you cater to them and make them feel like they're spending at home as well?
Okay. Tell us about Alipay. So what are some of the core features of the product? What are you guys focusing on in the US?
A little bit of history about Alipay. Some of you may have heard the name over the years. It started really about 14 years ago as a way to conduct trusted commerce between buyers and sellers. Think of it at the time as an escrow system, mainly for online shoppers. So if you're in Beijing or Shanghai and you're doing business with somebody in Western China, long way to look somebody in the face and feel like you can get the goods and services that you've asked for. So over the years, while our focus and initial entree into payments had been online, the company also started thinking about, again, use cases and looking at everyday life of our consumers. So today, which I know may sound like a lot, but think about the amount of time you're on your phone, our users use and get into Alipay 30 to 40 times a day. And they could be doing anything from paying online, paying offline, renting a bike and scanning a QR code to unlock the bike and go from point A to point B. Top-up, mobile top-up, some of the similar services that we have over here, things like Zelle and Venmo, right? P2P transfer. Those are all things that over the years we've put together under one app and one identity that gives you visibility now into your financial lifestyle.
And how are you getting traction in terms of with US retailers? Are you working directly with retailers? Are you working with payment systems? How are you approaching that?
Great question. It's a little bit different than China. In China, we went direct to the market just by nature. There weren't too many resellers or financial systems providers. Here, it's a little bit different. So what we've done in North America in general is to work directly with the established ecosystem players. And that includes companies such as First Data, Blackhawk, Verifone, and for many different reasons. One is, as a merchant, you're used now to getting your reports, your settlement reports, your financial information all in one. So for us to try and come in and say, look, we're a Me Too and we want to set up yet another payment type, in the US specifically, people are still recovering from EMV implementations, right? So for us to come in yet with another way of disrupting their point of sale was not the right thing to do. So we decided to take the approach of working with our partners and with their distribution, and it's beneficial on both sides. One is easier on the merchant. It's also important for the partners to bring a method of payment that is integrated already. And with doing that, you're also bringing in a new set of clients that have the ability to spend in the United States.
Okay. And those partners are companies like First Data. What are some of the other partners?
So First Data, Verifone, we also work for some of the smaller ISVs. Blackhawk is another one. So if you walk into a Sephora store, we launched not too long ago, you'll see the Alipay logo in there, and you're able to use Alipay as a Chinese consumer, of course, not a US consumer at the Sephora, and that's using Blackhawk's technology.
Okay. Are there scenarios where it does make sense to go directly to the retailer in the US? Like how far can you get with going just through your partners? What kind of market share can you get, and when do you think you have to eventually go to retail?
In general, we feel pretty confident. We're very selective in our partnership model, and we want to make sure that our partners are well-known, well-established, and also catering to the right categories that are important for our Chinese consumer. If you look at the Nielsen report, and by the way, I put it out there on my Twitter handle, which is Souheil Badran, so if you'd like to download, go for it. The categories that are important are shopping, food and beverage, accommodations. Those are all important things for that Chinese traveler that is coming here to the US. So what we've done is to find the right partners that can help us in those categories. The other parts are attractions, natural landmarks you're starting to see more and more Chinese consumers going to Yellowstone. So going back to the question, where we tend to work directly with the merchant is really on the marketing aspect. Within the app itself, we have something called Discover. Discover, think of it as a Yelp in the States, where it gives the Chinese consumer the ability to say, I'm in New York, what's around me, what shops are accepting Alipay, and we work directly with the merchant to make sure that they have the right incentive and offer for that consumer. So when they open up the app, they'll see a discount at Sephora, come in, spend X number of dollars, get a free makeup, which is, by the way, what Jeff and I did backstage. That's why it looks so good up here. So it's really an incentive for them, and merchants get excited about it because I go back to the ability for the consumer to open up the app 30 to 40 times a day. They're looking for directions, they're looking for locations. So not only do we give the offer from the merchant, and that's when we work with the merchants directly and give them access to our portal, but we also give directions in Mandarin. So now I know how to get and walk around the city, and especially in a location like this where too many streets are on one circle. We've also integrated transportation. So from within the app itself, I can order an Uber. If you're in a taxi today in New York City and Las Vegas, those are two major cities, we integrated with the taxi. So now as a method of payment, you'll see cash, credit, Alipay at the back of a yellow cab. So we try and think of that footstep of that consumer and the traveler and cater to that, and that's how we try and work with our merchants to give them that opportunity to cater to that consumer.
And roughly how big is the market of Chinese consumers traveling to the US and spending in the US?
So great question. In the US, it's one of the larger ones. So we have about 3.5 million consumers that come here every year. That number continues to grow. And part of the study that we did was the average spend by that consumer, which is close to $5,000. And if you look at where they're spending, a Chinese consumer versus a non-Chinese consumer, a Chinese consumer will spend more on shopping. a non-Chinese consumer will spend more on hotels and accommodations. And so they're here to shop. And so we'll take care of that 3.5 million. And it's obvious that they're going to the larger cities, New York, LA. LA gets about 900,000 every year. And Las Vegas, 400,000. DC, it's about 350, 400,000. So we'll work with the tourism bureaus around those cities as well. We'll also cater to the expats that are living here. And when you think about the Chinese community, knowing that Alipay is a new wallet in a sense, in the grand scheme of things, we're not necessarily catering to the Chinese community that moved here in the 70s, but it's the students that are here. It's the students that are in Canada, people who have moved here with jobs that still have access to their Alipay account. So we take that into consideration as well as we look at making the right offers for them.
Okay. But in terms of market size, is it tens of billions? Do you have a rough estimate for how much?
Oh, the actual dollar value?
Yeah.
It's in the billions of dollars. I don't have the exact number, but happy to try and put it out there on the Twitter world.
Sure. I would imagine that at some point also you would have to try to go after U.S. consumers in addition to Chinese consumers. What are your plans for that?
So, when you look at the U.S. market, and you can say the same for Europe, Australia, they're very mature markets, right? So right now, our number one priority is continuing to watch out for that consumer coming here and visiting here. We still think that we have a great opportunity. We haven't, we're not capped and tapped right now. We obviously will continue to look at the market because this is one of the most important markets in the world, right? And you have some very good players in the market. So the last thing we want to do is come in as a me too. And so we'll keep an eye on the market, but I think the timing right now for us is just making sure that we're catering to that Chinese consumer.
Okay. WeChat also has a product trying to do a similar thing, catering to the Chinese consumer, integrating with systems. How would you say, how is Alipay's product differentiated from WeChat's?
If you look at our history and DNA, it's really in financial services. That's really our core. So when we think about the opportunity, it's really surrounding the financial lifestyle of our consumer. And it's taking that to a super lifestyle app, and that's what we've done really with Alipay over the years. And again, not an overnight success. We've been at this now for a while. Everybody has competition. You guys have competition, right, at Forbes.
Yeah.
But so we don't necessarily think of, who are we competing against? We think about, okay, what's new in the market? What's important for our consumers? How can we, instead of thinking of it as competition, it's more of what can we do better to serve that consumer? And that's why today we're serving over 800 million consumers worldwide, with 600 plus in China alone. And again, that's one aspect of it. The second aspect is the consumption of that consumer. Making Alipay accessible overseas, because that middle class in China is at 300 million right now, almost the same size population as the United States. And they're looking to consume more products, more services. So we continue to work with the partners that we talked about earlier, with the brands directly, who are looking to export their products, services, goods into China. That's really our focus versus worrying about kind of day-to-day competition.
Okay. In terms of China overall,
it's big.
It's big. So in terms of trends, and obviously it's much more advanced and further along than compared with the US in terms of adoption of mobile payments. Can you talk about whether you think there are trends happening in China that you think are going to come to the US that haven't happened yet?
Not to sound self-serving, it really isn't the intent. It's more if you think about what we're doing today, and there is a reason why we have grown so quickly. All the apps that are within Alipay itself, I can argue that they exist here as individual apps within the US. So if you think about your banking app, the ability to pay bills, the ability to do P2P transfers, they're all segmented and fragmented. I think what we've done well over time is to, and I don't know if necessarily by design, it just, again, listening to our customers and what they're looking for has helped us get to where we are today, establishing one entry point into everything that you do on a daily basis. What do I mean by that? If you want to shop online, and if you think about our 11/11 day, which is Singles Day in China, we process over 256,000 transactions per second, right? Which is a very big number when you compare it to some of the traditional card ecosystems that are here that are probably doing at the peak 40 to 50,000. Being able to cater to that, to all those consumers who are very hungry to shop online is important for us. Being able to, so we look at technology. The second part is when you think about how we got to the number of users, we bypassed a generation in a sense where in the past there really was no credit in China. And people migrated directly to the mobile wallet, right? That's part of their everyday life. So that to me is like the biggest factor that allowed us to get to where we are today. And that's not to say that people cannot do it here in the US, but I think it'll take a little bit of time in terms of integrating everything together to put it under a single super app.
Okay. And going back to the Alipay features a little bit, what beyond payments, what would you say are some of the more popular features that people use?
So, you know, when you think about why people use it that many times per day, there's obviously the payment side. You can also borrow money, right? And when you think about, we issue thousands of loans, millions of loans over the years. Our average loan is $5,000. That's, again, across millions and millions of dollars, or millions of loans and applications. That's an important feature because what we can do with that now is, you know, we have some great stories. An egg farmer in Western China who had a small farm, 10 chicken maybe, growing some eggs and selling it every day. She came to Alipay and requested credit. And again, no different than how you would over here in certain areas. We extended credit. She was able to grow her business. Kind of, you know, rinse and repeat shampoo, right? Over and over again. So now she's one of the largest egg farmers in Western China. And those are some of the capabilities where in the past, when we think about the underbanked or unbanked, which is again key to our mission and vision, we're able to extend. So the lending capability is important. When you think about our delivery systems here in the US, we have FedEx, you've got UPS, you've got the Postal Service. We're kind of spoiled. We expect the package to be delivered, waiting outside our door, and you know, you come home and you pick it up. With China, what we're able to do is extend insurance to ensure that that package gets delivered there on time, unbroken, because it may be, you know, delivered on a bike, in a car, in a truck. It didn't really matter. So now you can buy insurance for as little as $1 for that package. So it really depends on the person, what they're buying, their lifestyle. And then finally, over the last couple of years, we've been able to allow people to invest, creating a money market fund where you can invest as little as $1, and you can also borrow from yourself, right? So we facilitated all of that into that single application, and that's where it's a little bit different.
Okay. Would you ever bring that to the US, the money market? I know you're focused on China now, but do you ever think about that, bringing that to US consumers, a money market?
Right now, it's really focused on China. I think there are enough money market funds here in the US. And, but we, you know, the team, I say we, the team, especially in China, view this as a great opportunity to continue to extend capabilities and drive that value for our consumers.
Okay. Getting close to time, but we'll do a couple more questions. What areas of payments you think are overhyped?
I'd love to see something really done with Bitcoin. I mean, I know that's probably, you guys have probably heard this. I think it's still, I'd like to see it kind of from myth to reality in everyday life. That to me is still a little bit overhyped. Okay. Not blockchain, but Bitcoin. Okay.
And also, what payment startups do you think are interesting and have a lot of traction?
Payment startups, you know, that's a great question. For us, we'll always look at what's happening in the ecosystem, but we think of it as basic. And by basic, I mean blockchain, AI, security, Internet of Things, and computing, especially around cloud computing. So we'll continue to look at those 5 categories and figure out, okay, who are the niche players, new players in the market that we can potentially partner with to make our ecosystem better. So no one really, in a sense, if I mention one company, the others will get upset. But I think those are the 5 categories that we continue to focus on.
Okay. And we're going to play the overrated, underrated game.
There we go. All right.
So first off, AI.
Underrated.
Okay. Credit cards.
Depends where in the world, overrated and underrated, they can be cheaper.
Where are they?
Am I cheating here? I don't know.
Where are they underrated?
What's that?
Where are they underrated?
I think certain economies or areas outside the world, outside the major developed countries.
Okay. WeChat.
Neutral.
Neutral. New York City.
I love it. Underrated.
Okay. San Francisco.
Underrated.
Milwaukee.
Way underrated.
Your hometown.
My hometown.
Yep.
We live by the water. We're starting to see some great technology around, water technology, and so it's underrated.
Great. Great. All right. Well, thanks so much,
Yeah, thank
Souheil.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.